importance of being earnest.
Lane, have you made the cucumber sandwiches for Lady Bracknell's tea?
Yes, sir.
By the way, Lane, I looked at your notebook. I noticed that when Lord Shawman and Mr. Worthing dined with me on Thursday night, 8 bottles of champagne were drunk.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles.
Why is it that in a bachelor's home the servants always drink the champagne? I only asked because I am interested, Lane.
I think that it is because the champagne is better in a bachelor's home. I have noticed that the champagne in married people's homes is rarely very good.
Good heavens, is marriage so depressing?
I believe marriage is quite pleasant, sir. I haven't had much experience of it myself. I've only been married once, and that was because of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I am not very interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir, it is not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
That is very understandable. Well, thank you, Lane.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem very casual. But really, if the servants don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem to have no morals.
Good afternoon, mate.
Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, good heavens sake!
Algy!
Hello, Chris!
Mr. Ernest Worthing is here, sir.
I can see that. What brings you to town?
Oh, pleasure brings me pleasure, of course. What else should bring one anywhere? You're eating as usual, I see, Algy.
Well, I believe it's normal in good society to have some light refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do in the country?
When one is in town, one entertains oneself. When one is in the country, one entertains others. It is very boring.
And who are the people you entertain?
Oh, neighbors.
Have you got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire?
No, they're all horrid. I never speak to any of them.
You must entertain them very much then. By the way, Shropshire is where you come from, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes, of course. My dear fellow, why are all these cups here? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why are you being so extravagant? Who is coming for tea?
Oh, just Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
Yes, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't be very happy that you're here.
And why's that?
My dear fellow, the way that you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I've come to town in order to propose marriage to her.
I thought you had come to town for pleasure. I call a marriage proposal business.
How very unromantic you are.
I really don't think proposing is romantic. It is very romantic to be in love, but there is nothing romantic about a proposal. Someone might accept. They usually do, I believe. But then the exciting time is over. The most important thing about romance is the uncertainty. If I ever marry, I'll certainly try to forget that I am married.
I believe you, dear Algy. The divorce court was invented especially for people with memories like yours.
Oh, there is no point in thinking about that, my dear fellow. Divorces are made in heaven. Please, don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They were ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
You keep eating them all the time.
That is different. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn loves bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
Well, my dear fellow, you don't need to eat it all. You are behaving as though you are married to her already. But you are not married to her. And I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, firstly, girls never marry the men they flirt with. They don't think it's the right thing to do.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't, it's true. That's why one sees such a large number of bachelors all over the place. And secondly, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
Gwendolyn is my cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the matter of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean, Algie? I don't know anyone called Cecily.
Lane, bring me the cigarette case which Mr. Worthing left last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
A cigarette case all this time. I wish you had told me. I've been writing letters to the police about it. I nearly offered a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer a large reward. I'm very poor at the moment.
There is no point in offering a large reward now that you've found it.
I think that is mean of you, Ernest, I must say. However, it doesn't matter. Now I look at the inscription, I see that this isn't yours.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. And you shouldn't be reading what's written inside it. It's very impolite to read a private cigarette case.
It is ridiculous to have rules about reading what one should read and what one shouldn't. Most of modern culture depends on reading what one should
Yes,
read.
I know that, and I don't want to discuss modern culture. I simply want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone called Cecily. And you said you don't know anyone called Cecily.
Well, if you must know, Cecily is my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, she's a charming old lady. Now, just give it back to me, Algie.
But why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt? From Little Cecily with all her love.
My dear fellow, some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. My aunt should be able to decide her height for herself. You seem to think that every aunt should be like your aunt, Lady Bracknell. That is ridiculous. Now, give me back my cigarette case.
But why would an aunt call her nephew her uncle? From Little Cecily with all her love to her dear Uncle Jack? I don't object to an aunt being a small aunt, but why does an aunt, whatever her size, call her own nephew uncle? I don't understand. And your name isn't Jack, it is Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
Sorry, sir.
You have always told me that your name is Ernest. I have introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You answer to the name Ernest, you look as if your name is Ernest, and you are the most earnest-looking person I've ever seen in my life. It is perfectly ridiculous to tell me that your name isn't Ernest. Don't ever try to lie to me. It is on your visiting cards. Here is one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, The Albany, London. I'll keep this as proof that your name is Ernest. Don't ever try to deny to Gwendolyn or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. And the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
That does not explain why your small Aunt Cecily calls you her dear uncle. My dear fellow, you had better tell me everything. Go on. I've always suspected that you were a secret Bunburyist, and now I am quite sure.
What on earth do you mean, Bunburyist?
I'll tell you the meaning of Bunburyist when you tell me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, give me my cigarette case.
Here it is. Now, give me your explanation, and please make it unbelievable.
My dear fellow, there is nothing unbelievable about my explanation. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. I was brought up by an old gentleman called Thomas Cardew. He adopted me when I was a little boy and made me the guardian of his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew, in his will. Cecily is my ward and calls me uncle because she respects me, although you wouldn't understand that. You don't understand respect. Cecily lives in my house in the country and is looked out after by her excellent governess, Miss Prison.
Where is your house in the country, by the way?
That has nothing to do with you, my dear fellow. I'm never going to invite you there. I will tell you honestly that the house is not in Shropshire.
I guessed that, my dear fellow. I've Bunbury'd all over Shropshire twice. Now, go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear Algy, I don't know whether you will understand. You are not a very serious person. I will try to explain it to you. I am a responsible guardian and have to behave well all the time in the country. It is my duty. But it is not very good for my health or happiness. So when I want to leave the country and come to town, I pretend to have a younger brother called Earnest. I tell everyone that he lives in the Albany and that he gets into the most terrible trouble. That, my dear Algy, is the truth.
You are a Bunburyist! I was right to say you were a Bunburyist! You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know!
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a younger brother called Earnest, so that you can come to town as often as you like. I have invented an invalid called Bunbury, so that I can go off to the country as often as I like. When I pretend to visit him, I call it Bunbury. And I call someone who visits imaginary people a Bunburyist. Bunbury is very valuable. For example, if it wasn't for Bunbury's very bad health, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight. I should be dining with Aunt Augusta.
I haven't asked you to dine with me tonight.
I know. You are very careless about sending out invitations. It is very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people more than not receiving an invitation.
You ought to dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I have no intention of dining with Aunt Augusta. Firstly, I dine there on Monday night, and once a week is enough time to spend with one's relations. Secondly, Aunt Augusta will either give me 2 women at dinner to talk to, or none. And thirdly, I know she's going to sit me next to Mary Farquhar.
Sorry, sir.
Who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It is not very pleasant. In fact, respectable women should not behave like that, and more women are doing it. The number of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is terrible. It looks so bad. But now that I know that you are a Bunburyist, I want to talk to you about Bunbury. I want to tell you the rule.
I am not a Bunburyist. If Gwendolyn agrees to marry me, I'm going to kill my brother. In fact, I think I'm going to kill him anyways. Cecily is a little too interested in him, so I'm going to get rid of Ernest. And I think you should get rid of your invalid friend with the ridiculous name.
Nothing will make me kill Bunbury. And if you ever marry, you will be glad to know Bunbury. Any man who marries without knowing Bunbury will have a very boring marriage.
If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, I won't want to know a Bunbury.
Then your wife will want to know him. You don't understand that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is not.
And don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
My dear fellow, it isn't easy to be anything these days. There is so much competition. Ah, that must be Aunt Augusta. I mean, really did ring like that. Now, I will take her out of the room for 10 minutes while you propose to Gwendolyn. So I can dine with you tonight, can't I?
I suppose if you want.
Good.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax are here, sir.
Good afternoon, dear afternoon. You're behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
Feeling very well is not the same as behaving very well. In fact, the two feelings rarely go together.
Good heavens, you are smart.
I'm always smart, aren't I, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not perfect. There would be no room for development, and I intend to develop in every direction.
I'm sorry if I'm a bit late, Admiral, but I had to visit Lady Harbury. I've not seen her since her poor husband died. She's changed quite much. She looks almost 20 years younger. But now I have some tea and with this nice cucumber sandwich you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Would you come and sit here, Gwendolyn?
Thanks, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable over here.
Good heavens! Lane! Lane!
Yes, sir.
Why tomatoes. I ordered them specially.
But sir, there were no cucumbers in the market this morning. None for ready money. I went there twice.
No cucumbers.
No, sir.
Thank you, Lane. You may go.
Oh, yes, sir.
I am very upset that there were no cucumbers on Augusta.
It doesn't matter, Algernon. I had crumpets at Lady Hardred.
Oh, well, I hear that her hair has turned quite blonde with grief.
Certainly has changed its colour. I don't know why, of course. Thank you. Had quite the treat for your dinner tonight, Algernon.
Oh.
I'm going to sit you next to Mary Parker.
Sorry, sir.
She's such a nice woman. She's so sweet to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, that I won't be able to dine with you tonight after all.
I hope you will, Algernon. There'll be 13 people at a dining table if you're not there. That is an unlucky number. Your uncle will have to eat upstairs by himself. Though, fortunately, you're a guest to do that.
It is terribly disappointing to me, Aunt Augusta, but I received a telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury has fallen ill again.
Yeah, it's very strange. Your friend Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from very bad health.
Yes, indeed, he is a permanent invalid.
Well, I think it's about time Mr. Bunbury decides whether he is going to live or die. I don't sympathize with invalids. One should not encourage illness in others. One should be healthy. Can you ask Mr. Bunbury not to be ill on Saturday? I'm having a reception and I want you to organize the music. People talk during performances of music, and I want to encourage them to talk. Particularly because it is almost the end of the London season and they've nearly run out of things to say.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious. But I think I can promise you that he will be well by Saturday. Of course, the music is a problem. You see, when one plays good music, people don't listen. And when one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I will show you the program of music I have chosen if you will come with me to the music room for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you.
It's been a charming day, Miss Fairfax.
Please don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. When people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain they mean something else. And I get nervous.
Well, I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
In fact, I'd like to talk to you about the something else while Lady Bracknell is out of the room.
Then talk about it quickly. Mamma often comes back into a room suddenly.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I've admired you more than any girl I've ever met. Well, since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of that. I was always fascinated by you, even before I met you. We live in an age of ideals. Any expensive monthly magazine will tell you that. My ideal has always been to love someone called Earnest. When Algernon mentioned he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I would love you.
Do you really love me, Gwendolyn?
Very much.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest.
But could you love me when it wasn't Ernest?
Oh, but your name is Ernest.
Yes, I know it is. But if it was something else, couldn't you love me then?
But you are called Earnest, so there is no reason to talk about you not being called Ernest.
Personally, darling, I don't really like the name Ernest. I don't think it suits me.
It suits you perfectly. It is a wonderful name. It is musical.
Really, Gwendolyn, I think there are a lot nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, is a charming name.
Jack! No, there is very little music in the name Jack. Oh, it does not excite me. I've known several Jacks, and they were all very ordinary. I feel pity for any woman married to a man called Jack. I think the only really good name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get back, Tyson, but I mean, we must get married at once. There is no time to waste.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, you know that I love you, Miss Fairfax, and you told me that you love me.
I do love you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said about marriage.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think this would be an excellent time to propose. And I will tell you now that I will accept so that you aren't worried.
Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mr. Worthing? What are you going to say to me?
You know what I'm going to say to you.
Yes, but you haven't said it yet.
Gwendolyn! Will you marry me?
Oh, yes, of course I will! You have taken a long time to ask. I'm afraid you have very little experience in proposing.
But darling, I never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often practice proposing. My brother Gerald often proposes to people. All my friends tell me. What wonderful blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me like that, especially when there are other people in the room.
You get that from that position. It is my respect as a head.
But please go away, Mamma. Mr. Worthing hasn't finished yet.
To finish what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me. You are not engaged to anyone, when you are engaged to someone, your father will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come as a surprise to a young girl. Either a pleasant surprise or an unpleasant surprise. It is not something she gets to arrange for herself. And now I'm going to ask you a few questions, Mr. Weather. And while I'm asking these questions, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me in the carriage.
Mamma!
Wait for me in the carriage, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mamma.
Gwendolyn, wait for me in the carriage.
Yes, Mamma.
You may sit down, Mr. Weather.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer to stand.
I must tell you, you're not on my list of eligible young men. Although I say I share the same list as the Duchess of Burton. We worked together during the season. But if your answer should prove satisfactory, I'll gladly add your name to the list. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I do smoke.
I'm pleased to hear it. Every man should have an occupation. There are far too many men in London these days who do not have an occupation. How old are you?
29.
That is a very fine age to get married. I've always believed that a young man who wants to get married shouldn't have everything and nothing. What do you know?
Well, I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I'm glad to hear it. I approve of ignorance. I do not approve of modern education. Though fortunately, in England at least, education has no effect whatsoever. What's your income?
Between £7,000 and £8,000 a year.
Is this in land that you earn or investment?
From investments.
That is satisfactory. Land is neither profitable nor pleasurable. One has to take care of it when one is alive, and one must pay taxes on it when one is dead. That's all I can say about land.
I do have a house in the country with some land, but I don't depend upon it for my income.
A country house. How many rooms?
Well,
it doesn't matter. If you have a house in town, Gwendolyn must have a house in town.
I do have a house in town, in Belgrave Square, but it is rented to Lady Bloxham.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She is very old. She doesn't go out very much.
Well, she's not necessarily respectable, even if she is old. What number, Belgrave Square?
149.
But that is the unfashionable side of the street. That could easily be changed.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both is necessary. Now, on to less important matters. Are your parents still living?
I lost both my parents.
Mr. Weather, lose one parent is unfortunate. Lose both seems like carelessness. Now tell me, your father, he must have been a wealthy man. Was he a businessman or an aristocrat?
I'm afraid I don't know, Lady Bracknell. I said I lost both my parents. In fact, my parents lost me. I don't know who I am. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, a very kind and charitable old gentleman, found me and called me Worthing because he had a train ticket in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a seaside town.
Where did this kind gentleman with the ticket for the seaside town find you?
In a handbag.
In a handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, a handbag. A large, black leather handbag, an ordinary handbag with handles.
Where did Mr. Thomas have your finest ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station here in London. It was given to him by mistake instead of his own.
In the cloakroom of Victoria Station.
Yes.
Mr. Worthy, I'm shocked by what you've just told me. I do not think this right to be born in the hand. Even if you had a hand, and I certainly do not think this right to be born in the handbag in the cloakroom of a railway station. It is not a respectful way for a gentleman to become a member of good society.
What is your advice, Lady Bracknell? I would, of course, do anything to make Gwendolen happy.
And my advice to you, Mr. Worthing, is this. Try to find some relations as soon as possible, and at least one.
I don't see how that is possible. I have the handbag and the wardrobe at home. Surely that should satisfy you.
Me, sir. It has nothing to do with me. Did you really believe that the Lord Bracknell would allow our only daughter to marry the son of a cloakroom and a piece of luggage? Goodbye, Mr. Worthing.
Goodbye.
What great which I cannot wait to eat.
Algie! Quit singing that awful tune.
Didn't everything work out all right over there? Did Gwendolen refuse to marry?
Gwendolyn is fine. She believes we are engaged. Her mother is awful. I never met such a monster. I beg your pardon, Algie. I shouldn't talk about your aunt like that.
My dear fellow, I love hearing people being rude about my relations. Relations are simply a boring group of people who don't know how to live and don't know when to die.
That is nonsense.
It isn't.
I'm not going to argue with you. You always want to argue about things.
Things were made for arguing about.
If I believe that, I'd shoot myself. You don't think Gwendolyn will be like her mother in 150 years, do you, Algie?
All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No men become like theirs. That is their tragedy.
I did say something clever.
They were very fine sentences, and they are very true.
I'm tired of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. You meet clever people everywhere. I wish there were a few fools left in the world.
There are.
I should like to meet them. What do they talk about?
The fools? Why, they talk about the clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, did you tell Gwendolen the truth about being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, one mustn't tell the truth to such a nice, sweet girl. You have extraordinary ideas about how to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to flirt with her if she is pretty. And if she isn't pretty, then you must flirt with someone else.
That is nonsense.
And what about your badly behaved brother, Earnest? Did you tell her about him?
Oh, I shall have gotten rid of Ernest by the end of the week. I'll say he died in Paris of a heart attack. Lots of people die of a heart attack quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it is hereditary, my dear fellow. It's the sort of thing that runs in families. You had better say that he died of a bad cold.
Are you sure a bad cold is not hereditary?
Of course it isn't.
Very well then. My poor brother Ernest will die suddenly in Paris of a bad cold. That gets rid of him.
But you said that your ward, Miss Cardew, was a little too interested in him. Won't she be very distressed?
Oh, that is not a problem. Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, I'm pleased to say. She eats big meals, goes on long walks, and doesn't pay attention to her lessons.
I would like to meet Cecily.
I will make sure that you never meet her. She's extremely pretty and just 18.
Have you told Gwendolen that you have an extremely pretty ward who is just 18?
My dear fellow, one mustn't tell people everything at once. Gwendolen and Cecily will be great friends, I'm sure. They'll be calling each other sister half an hour after they meet.
Women only call each other sister after they've called each other lots of other things first. Now, my dear fellow, if we are going to get a good table at the restaurant, we must go and change our clothes now. It's nearly 7 and I am hungry.
I never knew a time when you weren't hungry.
Ha ha! Well, what shall we do after dinner? go to a theatre?
Oh, no! One has to listen at the theatre. I hate listening.
Well, let us go to the club.
Oh, no! One has to talk at the club. I hate talking.
Well, let us go to the Empire Musical at 10.
The musical? Oh, no, I hate looking at things.
Well, what shall we do?
Nothing.
Doing nothing is very hard work. However, I don't mind very hard work if there is nothing definite to do.
Algy, please go away. There's something which I want to say to Mr. Worthing in private.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow you to do that.
Algy, you're not quite old enough to say things like that.
My own darling.
Ernest, I'm afraid we may never be married. I saw the frown on Mamma's face. Few parents these days pay attention to what their children say to them. I was 3 years old the last time I had any influence over my mother. Oh, Ernest, she may stop us from getting married. I may get married to someone else. I may get married again and again, but nothing will ever change my love for you.
Oh, Gwendolyn!
Ask me the romantic story of your birth. She is displeased about it, but I love it. Your name, Ernest, fascinates me. You are so simple and good-natured, and that makes you wonderfully complicated. I got your town address at the Albany. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House.
Manor House.
Woolton.
Woolton.
Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire. It may be necessary to do something impetuous. We will have to think carefully about this. I will write to you every day.
My own one.
How long will you be in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algy, you may turn round now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell for Lane to take me to the door.
Let me take you to the door, my own darling.
Certainly.
I will take Miss Fairfax to the door.
While you're here, Lane, bring me a glass of wine.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back till Monday. Pack my evening clothes, some casual clothes, and all my Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow is a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you are a pessimist.
Oh, I do my best, sir.
What a sensible, intelligent girl. The only girl I've ever cared for in my life. What on earth are you laughing at?
Oh, I'm a bit worried about my poor friend Bunbury, that is all.
Your friend Bunbury is going to get you into trouble one of these days.
I love trouble. It is the only thing which is never serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You always talk nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily! I think that watering flowers is a servant's occupation rather than yours, especially at a moment when the pleasures of education are waiting for you. Your German grammar book is on the table. Please open it at page 15. We will do yesterday's lesson again.
I don't like German. It is not a very pretty language. I know that I look quite ugly after my German lesson.
My dear, your guardian is anxious that you improve yourself in every way. As he was leaving for town yesterday, he reminded me of how important your German is. Indeed, he always reminds me of how important your German is when he's leaving for town.
Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes I think he is so serious he must be ill.
Your guardian's health is excellent, and his seriousness, indeed his earnestness, is very admirable in such a young man. I do not know anyone else who has such a good sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often seems a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. You must remember that he is always worried about that unfortunate young man, his brother Ernest.
Oh, I do wish Uncle Jack had allowed that unfortunate young man, his brother Ernest, to come here sometime. We might have a good influence on him, Miss Prism. I'm sure you would. You know German and geology and all kinds of things that influence a man very much.
I do not think that even I could have a good influence on his character. Mr. Worthing himself says that his brother's character is weak and indecisive. Indeed, I wouldn't want to have a good influence on him. I do not approve of this modern desire to turn bad people into good people at a moment's notice. I think that he should suffer because of his misbehavior. Oh, you must put away your diary. Cecily! I really don't understand why you keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to write down all my wonderful secrets. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Our memory is the diary that we all have with us.
Yes, but our memory usually remembers things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe memory is responsible for all the 3-volume novels people write.
Do not be dismissive of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself a long time ago.
Oh, did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good people ended happily, and the bad people ended unhappily. That is fiction.
Yes, I suppose so. But it seems rather unfair. And was your novel ever published?
I am sad to say it was not. The manuscript, unfortunately, was lost. Now stop work, my dear. There's no point in thinking about these things.
Hello!
Oh, good I see, Dick Helen. Just moving through the garden.
It is indeed a pleasure to see you.
And how are we, Miss Prism? You are, I hope, well.
Oh, Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her good to go on a short walk with you in the park. Canon Crossbow.
Certainly, I have not mentioned anything about a headache.
No, I know that, Miss Prism. But I felt that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when Canon Crossbow arrived.
Cecily, dear, I do hope you pay attention to your lesson.
I'm afraid I do not.
That is strange. If I were Miss Prism's pupil, I would always pay attention. Has Mr. Worthing returned from town?
We expect him on Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he usually does like to spend his Sundays in London. He is an earnest young man who does not always look for pleasure, as I believe his younger brother does. I will see you both in church later.
I think, dear Canon, I will have a walk with you. I find I have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
Well, it would be a pleasure, Miss Prism, a pleasure. Let us go to the end of the garden and back.
Oh, that would be delightful! Oh, Cecily! You will read your political economy in my absence.
You horrid political economy! I'm in
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just arrived from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing? B4, the Avenue in London. That must be Uncle Jack's brother. Have you told him Uncle Jack's in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very disappointed. I told him that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He seemed anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here, and you would better talk to a housekeeper about a bedroom for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met a really wicked person. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid you look just like everyone else. Indeed, he does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You're making a strange mistake. I'm not little. In fact, I believe I'm quite tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily, and you, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not Cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I am wicked.
You're not wicked. Then I think you have been deceiving us all. I hope you have not been leading a double life. I hope you have not been pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I will admit I have been very bad.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, I think that I have been very wicked in my own way.
Oh, I don't think you should be so proud of that. Though I'm sure it must have been pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand why you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back in town till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment to me. I have to leave for London by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business meeting that I am anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Well, of course, I know it is important not to attend a business meeting. That is what makes life interesting. But I really think you should wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak with you about your immigration.
He wants to speak to me about... I don't understand.
About your immigration? He's gone to town to buy your clothes.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my clothes. He has no taste in ties at all.
Oh, I don't think you require ties. He's sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd rather die.
Well, at dinner on Wednesday, he said you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
But I don't believe the next world or Australia are very nice. This world is good enough for me, Cousin Cecily.
Ah, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not. That is why I want you to inform me. Please, will you do this, Cousin Cecily?
I'm afraid I don't have time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind if I reformed myself this afternoon?
Well, it is rather ambitious of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
That is because I am hungry.
Oh, how thoughtless of me! I should have known that when one is going to reform himself, one needs regular meals. Please come in.
Thank you. May I have a flower for my buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a flower for my buttonhole. I would like a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think you should say such things to me. Miss Prison never says such things to me.
Miss Prism must be a very short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I have ever seen.
Miss Prism says good looks are a trap.
They are a trap that any sensible man would like to be caught in.
No, I don't think I'd like to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are on your own too much, Canon Chasuble. You should get married.
The early church was very much against marriage.
No. That is obviously the reason why the early church has not lasted to the present day. And you don't seem to realize, dear sir, that a man who remains single becomes a permanent temptation.
But isn't a man equally as attractive when he is married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
And often I've been told he is not even attractive to her.
Well, that depends on the woman. If she is a mature woman, she can be relied upon. You cannot rely upon a young woman. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us.
No, Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing?
This is a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I'd returned sooner than I expected to. Canon Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Mr. Worthing, I do hope these black clothes do not mean something dreadful has happened.
My brother.
More shameful debts and bad behavior.
Is he still leading his wicked life?
Dead!
Your brother Ernest is dead.
Quite dead.
Listen for him. I hope he will learn from this.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I must offer you my most sincere condolences. At least you know you were always most generous and forgiving to him.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is very, very sad.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel in Paris.
Did the telegram mention the cause of death?
A bad cold, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear prison, charity. None of us are perfect, and I myself am particularly sensitive to drafts. Will the funeral take place here?
No, it seems he wants to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? Ugh. I'm very sorry to say I don't believe he was being very serious even at the end. You will want me to mention this sad event in church next Sunday. My sermon on the mercy of God can be used on any occasion, happy or sad. I have preached it at baptisms, weddings, and funerals. The last time I preached it was before the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Classes. The bishop who was present there liked it very much.
That reminds me. You mentioned baptisms, I think, Canon Choswell. You know how to baptize people, I suppose. I mean, you often baptize people, don't you?
It is, I'm sorry to say, one of the canon's most frequent duties. I have often spoken to the poorer classes about it, but they don't take any notice.
Was there any particular child in whom you were interested? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried.
Yes.
People who live just for pleasure are usually unmarried.
But it is not for any child, dear Canon, no. The fact is, I would like to be baptized myself. Later this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely you have been baptized already.
I don't remember anything about it. Of course, I don't know if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. At what time did you like the ceremony performed?
I'll come around 5 o'clock if that suits you.
Ah, perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies about that time. Twins who were born in one of the cottages on your estate.
I don't think it would be much fun to be baptized alongside babies. That would be childish. Would 5:30 be all right?
Perfectly. And now I must leave this house of grief. But try not to grieve too much. Bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
Oh, this seems to me to be an extremely obvious blessing.
I'm so pleased to see you. But what horrible clothes you're wearing.
Dear.
Please come and change them.
Cecily!
What's the matter, Uncle Jack? Please look happy. You look as though you have a toothache. And I've got such a wonderful surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother. Who? Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
Oh, what nonsense! I haven't got a brother.
And he is still your brother, even though he has behaved badly in the past. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
This is very happy news.
We were just getting used to his departure. His sudden return seems very distressing.
My brother's in the dining room. I don't know what it means. I think it is perfectly ridiculous.
Ta-da!
Brother Jack, I've come from town to tell you that I am very sorry for all the trouble I have given you, and I promise to behave myself better in future.
Uncle Jack, are you going to refuse to shake your brother's hand?
Nothing will make me shake his hand. I think it is disgraceful that he has come here. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit very often. Also, much good in Ernest if he leaves London in order to sit by the bed of an invalid.
Oh, he's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
He's told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his very bad health.
Bunbury! Well, I don't want him talking to you about Bunbury or anything else. It makes me furious.
Of course, I admit I used to behave very badly, but I must say that I think Brother Jack's coldness towards me is very unkind. I expect expected a better welcome, especially since it is the first time that I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
You would never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
This is reconciliation, is it not? I think we should leave the brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism, my task of reconciliation is over.
You have done something beautiful today, child.
We must not say these things too soon.
I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel! Doubt you've got to leave this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any bumbering here.
I have put Mr. Earnest's things in the room next to yours, sir.
What?
Mr. Earnest's luggage. I have unpacked it and placed it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 large suitcases, 1 small suitcase, 2 hat boxes, and a large picnic basket.
I'm afraid I can only stay for a week this time.
Merriman, order the carriage at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a liar you are, Jack! I've not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasure at all.
Yes, I quite understand.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to speak of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You are perfectly ridiculous in them. Why don't you go upstairs and change? It is perfectly childish to be wearing black clothes for a man who's going to be staying in your house for a whole week as a guest.
You certainly are not staying with me for a whole week. You've got to go by the 4 o'clock train.
I'll certainly not leave you while you are in black clothes. That would be very unfriendly.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you are not too long. I never saw anybody else take so long to get dressed, and with such uninteresting results.
At least it's better than always being overdressed like you are.
If I am occasionally overdressed, I make up for it by being extremely overeducated.
Your vanity is silly. Your behavior is outrageous, and your presence in my garden is ridiculous. However, you have got to catch the 4 o'clock train, and I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This bumbering has not been a success for you.
I think that it has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is wonderful. But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for some more bunburying. Ah, there she is.
I just came to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order a carriage for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away!
Then we have to part.
I'm afraid so. It is a very painful parting.
It is always painful to part with new friends. It is easy to bear the absence of old ones. But even a short parting with someone whom one has just met is extremely painful.
Thank you.
The carriage is at the door, sir.
Tell it to come to the door in 5
I hope I shall not offend you if I say that you seem to me to be perfect in every way.
I think it is so nice of you to be so honest with me. If you allow me, I will copy your words into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary, Cecily? I would love to look at it. May I look at it?
Oh, no! It is a young girl's thoughts and impressions, and of course it will be published. When it appears in the form of a book, I do hope you'll buy a copy. But please don't stop, Ernest. I enjoy writing things down from dictation. I have got perfect in every way. You can go on. I'm quite ready to write down more. Please don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak clearly and not cough. Besides, I can't spell a cough.
Right. Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful beauty, I have loved you wildly. passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me you love me. Wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't make much sense now, does it?
Cecily.
The carriage is waiting at the door, sir.
Tell the carriage to come to the door at the same time next week! Uncle Jack would be very annoyed if he knew you were staying till next week at the same time.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anybody else in the whole world except you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy, of course. We've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months.
It would have been 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack told me about his very wicked younger brother, you, of course, have been the main topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And a man who is talked about all the time is very attractive.
Yes.
And so I've been in love with you, which is probably a bit silly of me.
Darling, and when did we become engaged?
On the 14th of February. I was unhappy you didn't know I existed, so I decided to make up my mind one way or the other. And after thinking about it for a long time, I decided to accept your proposal of marriage. I decided that we were engaged. And so the next day I went out and bought this pretty little ring for you to give to me, and I promised you always to wear it.
Did I give you this? It is very pretty, isn't it?
Ah, yes, you've got wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've given you for leading such a bad life. Oh, and here is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
My letters? But my dear sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You needn't remind me, Ernest. I remember very clearly I had to write your letters for you. And sometimes more often.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
I couldn't possibly let you do that. That would make you far too conceited. Besides, the 3 that you wrote me when I broke off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled. They make me cry a little every time I read them.
Was that engagement ever broken off?
Well, of course it was. On the 22nd of March. You can read the diary entry if you'd like.
Today, I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather continues to be very pleasant. But why on earth did you break it off? What had I done? I had done nothing at all. Cecily, I am very hurt indeed to hear that you broke it off. Particularly when the weather was so pleasant.
Well, it wouldn't have been a very serious engagement if I hadn't broken it off at least once. But I forgave you by the end of the week.
Oh, no, what a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
Oh, you dear romantic boy.
Do you promise to never break off our engagement again, Cecily?
Oh, I don't think I can possibly do that now that I've met you. Besides, of course, there is the matter of your name.
Yes, of course.
Don't laugh at me, Ernest. It has always been a dream of mine to love someone called Ernest. It is a name which inspires such confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
But, my dear child, could you love me if I had another name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Ooh, I don't like the name Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I don't see why you can't like the name Algernon. It is not a bad name. In fact, it is a rather aristocratic name. Half the fellows who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you still love me?
I might respect you. I might admire your character. But I don't think I'd like to spend very much time with you.
Cecily, the clergyman here is, I suppose, a very experienced man.
Ah, Canon Choswell is a very learned man. He's never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
What's the matter? What about an important baptism? I mean, on important business.
Oh.
I shan't be away for more than half an hour.
We have been engaged since the 14th of February, and I've only met you today, so I think it is rather hard that you should leave me for
in no time.
What an impetuous young boy he is. I must write about his proposal in my diary.
A Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. She says it is on very important business.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went to Canon Choswell's house some time ago.
Ask the lady to come out into the garden and join me. Mr. Worthing ought to be back soon. And you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. She must be one of the many good women that help Uncle Jack with his charitable work in London. I don't like women who are interested in charitable work. I think it is so presumptuous of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. How can we be great friends? I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
Oh, how nice of you to like me so much when we've known each other for such a short time. Please sit down.
Can I call you Cecily, may I not?
Of course, with pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this is a good opportunity to tell you who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've never heard of him, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I'm glad to say, is completely unknown. I think that is quite right. The home seems to me to be the proper place for a man. Certainly, once a man begins to neglect his duties at home, he becomes very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are quite strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of a system. So do you mind if I look at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, dear Gwendolyn. I like being looked at.
You have a short visit, I suppose?
Oh no, I live here.
Really? Your mother or an elderly female relation lives here also?
Oh no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relation.
Indeed.
My guardian, with the help of Miss Prism, has the difficult task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
It is strange that he never mentioned to me he had a ward. How secretive of him. He's becoming more interesting every hour. However, I'm not sure that I'm delighted by this news. I've liked you ever since I met you, Cecily. But now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I must say that I wish you were, well, a bit older than you seem to be. And not quite so pretty. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Please do. I think that whenever someone has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to be quite candid, I wish you were at least 42 years old and extremely plain. Earnest has an honourable, truthful nature to him. He would never be deceitful. But the most honourable men can be influenced by the beauty of others. Modern history, and indeed ancient history, give us very painful examples of what I refer to. Indeed, history would be quite unreadable if it were not so.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Earnest?
Yes.
But it is not Mr. Earnest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Earnest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
Oh, I'm sorry to say that they have not got on well with each other for a long time.
Oh, I see. Now that I think of it, I've never heard any man mention his brother. Most men don't seem to like the subject. Cecily, you have lifted a weight off my mind. I was becoming almost anxious. It would have been awful if any cloud had come of such a special friendship, would it not? I'm quite sure it is not Mr. Earnest Worthing who is your guardian.
I'm quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his guardian.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should keep it a secret from you. It will be in the local newspaper next week. Mr. Earnest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I feel that there must be some small mistake. Mr. Earnest Worthing and I are engaged to be married. The announcement will appear in the newspapers on Saturday.
Gwendolyn. Ernest has just proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is strange, because he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. Please, look for yourself. I never travel without my diary. Oh, one should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you. But I'm afraid I was his first choice.
It would make me very sad, dear Gwendolyn, to cause you any pain. But I feel ever since Ernest proposed to you, I feel he has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been trapped into making a foolish promise, it is my duty to rescue him at once. And fairly.
If my dear boy has got himself into an unfortunate entanglement, I would not reproach him for it when we are married.
Are you calling me an entanglement, Miss Cardew? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I've trapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is not a time to pretend to have good manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
Well, I'm glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious we do not live in the same socio-circle.
Shall I set the table for afternoon tea here as usual, Miss?
Yes, as usual!
Are there many interesting walks near here, Miss Cardew?
Yes, a great many. On top of one of the hills, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that is why you live in town.
This is quite a well-kept garden, Miss Cardew.
I'm glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Well, flowers are as common, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Personally, I don't see how anyone manages to live in the country. If anybody who is anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
Would you like some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Yes, thank you. Hey, go. Do I want some tea?
Sugar?
Oh, no, thank you. Sugar's not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is not seen in the best houses nowadays.
Give that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known to be sweet-tempered, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
I would go any distance to save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from being trapped by a girl like you.
I have distrusted you from the moment I saw you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never wrong in such matters. My first impressions of people are always right.
It appears I'm keeping you from other appointments. No doubt you have many other similar calls to make in the area.
Ernest! My own Ernest!
Gwendolyn, darling!
May I ask if you're engaged to be married to this young lady?
The dear little Cecily? Of course not. What could have put such an idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may kiss me.
I knew there must be some sort of misunderstanding. The gentleman who is currently kissing your hand is my guardian, Mr. Jackwood.
I beg your pardon.
His is Uncle Jack. And here is Ernest.
My own love.
Wait a moment, Ernest. I must ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Gwendolyn, good heavens, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may kiss me.
I felt there must be some slight error. The gentleman who has just kissed you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
deny anything if I like. But my name certainly is Jack. It's been Jack for years.
You've both been terribly deceived.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My poor Robert Gwendolyn.
Please, you call me sister.
There is one question I must ask my guardian.
A very good idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like permission to ask you. Where is your brother, Earnest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother, Earnest, so it is very important for us to know where he is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me, but I must speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I've ever been in such a painful position that I'm quite inexperienced at doing this. However, I will tell you honestly that I have no brother, Ernest. I have no brother at all. I've never had a brother, and I don't intend to ever have a brother in the future.
No brother at all.
None.
Did you ever have a brother of any kind?
Never, not of any kind.
It appears, dear Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl suddenly to find herself in.
Let us go into the house. They will not follow us into the house, will they?
Oh, certainly not. Men are so cowardly, aren't they?
I suppose this awful business is what you call bumbery, is it?
Yes, and it is the best bunburying I've ever done in my life.
You have no right to bumbery here.
That is absurd. One has a right to bunbury wherever one chooses. Every serious bunburious knows that.
What on earth are you saying? Serious bumberious? Good heavens.
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to enjoy one's life. I am serious about bunburying. I've no idea what you are serious about. I suppose you are serious about everything.
The only satisfaction I get from this awful business is that you won't be able to bumbery anymore. Your friend Bunbury is quite finished. You won't be able to leave the town and come to the country quite so often now, and that is a very good thing.
Your brother isn't very well, is he, Jack? Dead, in fact. You won't be able to run off to town from the country quite so often, and that's a very good thing too.
And you have behaved very badly towards Miss Cardew. I must say that deceiving a sweet, simple girl like Cecily is very wicked of you. Not to mention that she is my ward.
Well, I must say that deceiving a brilliant, clever young lady like Miss Fairfax is very wicked of you. To say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn. I love her. That is all.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
You certainly will not marry Miss Cardew.
I don't think there is much of a chance of you marrying Miss Fairfax either, Jack.
How can you stand there calmly eating muffins when we're in this awful trouble? You seem to be perfectly heartless.
I cannot eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs. One should always eat muffins calmly. It is the only way to eat them.
It is perfectly heartless to be eating muffins at all, considering the circumstance.
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing which makes me feel better. Indeed, when I am in very great trouble, I refuse everything except food and drink. At present, I am eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I like muffins.
Well, there's no reason why you should eat them all.
But you have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens, I think a man should be able to eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But you just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
No, I said it was perfectly heartless for you to eat muffins. That is very different.
Maybe. But the muffins are the same.
Ouchie! I wish you would go.
You cannot ask me to go without giving me some dinner. I never go without my dinner. Besides, I've just arranged with Canon Chasuble to be baptized at 5:45. I am going to be baptized with the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, no you won't. That is nonsense. I arranged with Canon Chasuble to be baptized myself at 5:30. I will, of course, take the name Earnest. Gwynlyn would want me to. We both can't have the name Earnest. That's absurd. Besides, I have a right to be baptized if I like. There is no evidence showing that I ever been baptized, and I think it's very likely that I never was. And so does Canon Chasuble. It is different for you. You've been baptized already.
Yes, but that was years ago.
Yes, but you've been baptized already. That is the important thing.
Yes, indeed. So I know my health can bear it. I must say, I think it is rather dangerous for you to be baptized now. It might make you very unwell. You can't have forgotten that a close relative very nearly died in Paris this week of a bad cold.
But you said yourself that a bad cold is not hereditary.
I know it didn't used to be, but it probably is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements.
Oh, that is nonsense. You always talk nonsense.
Jack, muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. I told you I was particularly fond of muffins.
But I hate tea cake.
Then why on earth do you serve tea cake to your guests? I don't like your ideas of hospitality.
And Algernon, I already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why won't you go?
Because I haven't had my tea yet, and there's only one muffin left!
They have not followed us into the house. They must be ashamed. They've eaten all the muffins. That looks like repentance to me. They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough? But I haven't got a cough. Oh, they're looking at us. How dare they? They're coming towards us. How presumptuous of them. Let us remain silent and dignified.
Certainly. It is the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence is rather unpleasant.
Yes, I agree it is.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something to ask you. Extremely important.
Gwendolyn, I value your common sense. Mr. Moncrief, I would be grateful if you would answer the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
That seems like a very satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear. If you can believe him.
I don't believe him, but it is a wonderful answer. That's true.
If you're talking about something very serious, the style of what you say is much more important than the sincerity. Mr. Worthing, why did you pretend to have a brother? Was it in order that you could come to town as often as possible to see me?
Can you doubt it, Miss
I
Fairfax?
have very strong doubts, but I intend to ignore them. Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing. His reply seems to me to be particularly truthful.
I'm very happy with what Mr. Moncrief said. The sound of his voice alone makes me feel certain I should believe him.
Then do you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
I agree. I've forgotten something. We have ideals which we must not ignore. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
This is an excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Are you ready?
Certainly.
Your first names are a problem that cannot be solved. That is all.
Our first names? Is that all? Well, we are going to be baptized later this afternoon.
Are you really prepared to do this terrible thing for my sake?
I am.
Are you really prepared to face this awful ordeal to please me?
I am.
How absurd to talk about the equality of the sexes. Men are infinitely better than us at self-sacrifice.
We are.
Words of courage of which we would have known nothing. Darling.
Lady Bracknell. Oh! Gwendolyn, what is the meaning of this?
It means I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here, sit down immediately. I was informed of Gwendolyn's sudden departure from a most trusted maid.
My maid?
Should information after I'd given her a small coin. So I came on the next train. Her father does not know where she is, and I do not plan to tell him. In fact, I don't tell him the truth about anything. I don't think it wrong to do so. But you must know that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are not sad. And now, Baron,
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
is this the house in which your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, lives?
Oh, no, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? What did he die? It must have been very sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, my poor friend Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die?
Bunbury? Oh, he was quite exploded.
Explode! Mr. Bunbury, the victim of a terrorist plot. Not known Mr. Bunbury was interested in politics. If so, he deserved his punishment.
My dear Augusta, I mean that he was found out. What I mean is the doctors found out that he could not live, so he died.
Oh.
Well, he seems to have a great confidence in the opinions of his doctors. Though, I finally decided on something definite, and ethical, proper medical advice. Now, Mr. Redding, if I may ask, who is that young person who's holding arms with my nephew Abnon? And I dare the most unnecessary word.
The lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
Pardon me.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know whether there is anything particularly exciting about the air in Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements being made seems to be considerably above the expected average. I suppose I ought to make some preliminary inquiries. Mr. Redding, is Miss Cardew connected with any larger railway stations in London? I'm merely asking for information. I did not know until yesterday if there were persons related to railway stations.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, London, of Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and also of the Sporran, Bedfordshire, Scotland.
That is not unsatisfactory. The real address is often inspired by confidence, but I have no proof they are real.
Miss Cardew's family lawyers are Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby. They are lawyers in the highest position of their profession. In fact, I know one of the Mr. Markby's is to be seen at dinner parties. I am never satisfied.
Now, how extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I've also got, and you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, and confirmation for vaccines for the measles and whooping cough, both German and English.
Ah, a busy life, I see. But I wonder if a young girl has had too many experiences. I don't think a young girl should have too many excitements. Come, yeah, we must be going. Though, I suppose I ought to ask you, Mr. Redding, if Miss Cardew has any personal fortune.
She has £130,000 invested in government stocks, so her annual income is very large. And that is all, Lady Bracknell. Goodbye. So pleased to have seen you.
Wait, Mr. Redding. £130,000 in government stocks. I can see now that Miss Cardew is a very attractive young lady. There's so few young women these days with lasting qualities that improve with time. We live in an era, unfortunately, when beauty is the only thing. Come here, dear child. You are a very pretty child. Your hair is not styled very well, and your dress is not fashion. But we can easily change that. A French name will produce a valuable result in a short time. I remember I once recommended one to Lady Lansing, and after that, even her husband did not recognize her.
After a few months, nobody recognized her.
Oh, no, Mr. Jones. I would like to see it from the side. Yeah, very good. There is much about your situation which is promising. But your chin is high. Chin's ordinarily high as a plate. And
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
There is much about his situation which promises she fit well into good society.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world. And I don't care about her fitting into good society.
You don't speak that way of good society, Adam. And people can't get into good society speak like that. My dear child, of course, Adam has no money. He has only debts to bring to a marriage. But I don't approve of marrying for money. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no personal fortune of my own. But I do not allow that to stand in my way. I suppose I have to allow this engagement to take place.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
That's it, ladies.
Oh, thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may call me Aunt Augusta in future.
Oh, thank you, Aunt Augusta.
This wedding will take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I do not approve of long engagements. They give people the chance to find out about each other's character. It is never advisable.
I beg your pardon, Lady Bracknell, but their marriage is not acceptable. I am the guardian of Miss Cardew, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. I will not give my consent.
Why not? Algernon has nothing, but he looks as if he has everything. What more could you want?
I'm so sorry to say this to you, Lady Bracknell, but the fact is, I don't approve of his character. I suspect he is devious.
Devious? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He was educated at Oxford.
There can be no doubt about it. This afternoon, while I was away in London, he was allowed into this house because he said he was my brother. While pretending to be my brother, he drank, I'm informed by my servant, an entire bottle of very good quality champagne, which I was keeping especially for myself. He also succeeded in turning my ward against me. He then stayed for tea and ate every muffin we had. He behaved completely heartlessly, and worst of all, he knew I don't have a brother, that I never had a brother, and that I don't intend to ever have a brother of any kind. He knows because I told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Welling, after much careful consideration, I have decided to forget the way my nephew Algernon behaved towards you.
How very good for you, Lady Bracknell. I have decided, however, not to change my mind. I will not give my consent.
Come here, dear child. How old are you?
Well, I really am only 18, but I tell people I'm 20 when I go to parties.
You're perfectly right to only make a slight alteration. In fact, I think a woman should never be quite accurate about her age. It looks so devious. But, all things considered, you'll soon be of age, and so I do not think the opinion of your guardian is very important.
Excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell, but I must tell you that according to her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to be a problem to me. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women who have, by their own free choice, remained 35 for years. There's Lady Dumbledon, for example. She has remained 35 ever since she reached the age of 40, and that was many years ago. Hardly a necessity. Even more attractive then than she is now, and she has more money then than she has now.
Could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I know you could, but I really couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, but I do like punctuality out of other people. Waiting even to be married is quite out of the question.
Then what are we going to do, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Welling, Miss Cardew has made it apparent that she cannot wait till she is 35. Something which definitely shows a rather impatient nature, but I beg you to reconsider.
The decision is completely in your hands, Lady Bracknell, when you consent to my marriage of Gwendolyn. I will gladly consent to your nephew's marriage of my ward.
You must know that your marriage to my daughter is not possible.
But then I'm afraid none of us can ever look forward to getting married.
I do not agree to Gwendolyn never getting married. Algernon, of course, may decide for himself. Grandia, you've already missed 5, if not 6 friends.
Everything is quite ready for the baptism.
Baptism? There's not a little alley for baptism. First marriage, and then children, and then baptism.
Both these gentlemen have said they wish to be baptized immediately.
Baptized at their age. The idea sounds ridiculous, and quite irreligious. And I forbid you to be baptized. My husband would Bracknell not like to know you're wasting your time and money in such a way.
Do I understand you correctly? It's neither of you gentlemen to be baptized.
I don't think baptism will be of much use to either of us at the moment, Canon Trosball.
I'm very sorry to hear you say so, Mr. Worthing. That sounds like the view of an irreligious man. I have written 4 unpublished sermons on the subject. However, since we have decided to ignore religion for now, I will return to the church where Miss Prism has been waiting for me for an hour and a half.
Miss Prism? Did you say Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I am going to the church to join her now.
Wait, Captain Choctaw, this is something which might be very important to Lord Bracknell, myself. This is Miss Prism, a rather giddy female with some connection to education.
She is a very respectable lady.
Must be the same one. May I ask what position she has in your household?
But, madam.
Lady Bracknell, Miss Prism has been Miss Cardew's valued governess and companion for the last 3 years.
I must see her at once, for to be sent for immediately.
She is approaching. She is nearly here.
Oh, I was told you were coming to the church, dear Canon. I have been waiting there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism. Prism! Where is that baby? Prism, 28 years ago you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Square, London, in charge of a pram containing a baby boy. But you never returned. After a few weeks and a police investigation, the pram was discovered in a remote part of the city. It contained a very bad three-volume novel. But there was no baby. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I am ashamed to say, I don't know. I wish I did. These are the facts. On the morning of that day, a day I will remember forever, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in the pram. I had with me a large old handbag. Intended to put the manuscript of a 3-volume novel I had written out. In a moment of forgetfulness for which I can never forgive myself, I put the manuscript in the pram and the baby in the handbag.
But where did you put the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is very important to me. I must know where you put the handbag containing that baby.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
Which railway station?
Victoria!
I must go to my bedroom for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait for me here, darling.
If you're not long, I will wait for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not guess, Canon Choctaw. As you ought to know, such strange coincidences happening in a family with a high position in society like ours is unhappy. It is not appropriate.
Oh, well, Jack sounds rather agitated.
Noise extremely unpleasant.
It has stopped now.
I wish you would stop.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Miss Prism, is this the handbag? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one person depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here's the damage which happened in an accident on a bus. And here is the stain caused by a drink which exploded in Leamington. And here near the lock are my initials. Oh, I had forgotten I had them put there. Oh, the bag is definitely mine. I am delighted to have it returned to me so unexpectedly. It has been inconvenient not to have it all these years.
Miss Prism, you had more returned to you than the handbag. I was the baby you placed in.
You?
Yes. Mother.
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
That is a serious problem. But why should someone speak badly of someone who has suffered? Why should society treat men and women differently? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing! You are wrong. There's the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, will you kindly inform me of who I am?
I'm afraid the news may not be pleasing to you. It seems you are the son of my poor sister, Miss Moncrief, and therefore Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother! I always knew I had a brother! I always said I had a brother! Cecily, how can you ever doubt that I had a brother? Canon Chasuble, my unfortunate brother! Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother! Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother! Algy, you will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You've not behaved like a younger brother should.
Well, I haven't done it until today. I did my best, though.
But my own... What? What is your name now that you are not Jack Worthing?
Good heavens, I'd forgotten about my name. I suppose you won't change your mind about your favorite name.
Never.
Then the question must be settled at once. Aunt Augusta, had I ever been baptized?
Your loving parents did everything for you, including baptism.
So I was baptized. That is clear. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the words.
You were the eldest son, and so you were given your father's name.
Yes, but what was my father's name?
I cannot remember the general's name at present, but I heard the other one.
Algy, can't you remember what our father's name was?
My dear fellow, we never even spoke to each other. He died before I was a year old.
Mary, fetch me the armies list. His name will appear in the army list, I suppose, Aunt Augusta.
The general was a man of peace, except in his domestic life. So I have not had his name appear in an army list.
The army list for the last 40 years are here. I should have read them all. Let's see. Malum, Malboxam, Malgam. What awful names they have. Mockby, Migsby, Moncrief. 1840, Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General. 1869. Names Ernest John. I always told you, Gwendolyn, that my name is Ernest. I mean, it's Ernest after all. I mean, it really is Ernest.
Now he called you Ernest. And I didn't dislike that name.
Ernest! My own Ernest! I knew from the very moment I saw you that you could have no other name.
Darling, it is terrible for a man to realize he's been telling the truth his whole life. Can you forgive me?
I can, because I feel you are going to change.
My own darling.
Letitia!
Frederick, at last!
At last!
Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of a lack of serious.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the importance of being earnest.